What's going on, guys? Today I wanted to talk about Conquest mode, just released in yesterday's patch. And if you guys are not familiar with how I do Let's Talks, it's kind of just me spewing a stream of consciousness, my thoughts, my opinions. Not always showing a ton on screen, so if it's something that you wanted to like watch or listen to on the side while you're doing something else, is probably what this is ideally meant for. So if you're not aware, Conquest mode released yesterday. There's a whole bunch of different levels. You start in the Proving Grounds, you win one game of battle mode, and you go to Silver, you earn a silver ticket. You go into Silver Conquest, you win 2, which wins you a gold ticket, you win 3, which wins you an infinity ticket, and you win 5, which gets you an infinity avatar and a whole lot of medals. Those medals can be redeemed in the shop, where it looks like we'll be having exclusive variants and a whole host of other rewards, gold, you can buy tickets, avatars, mystery variants, things like that. And the biggest thing that I feel, and I don't want this to come off as overly negative because I don't mean it in that way, but honestly I feel like this mode has sort of an identity crisis. And what I mean by that is I don't know who it wants to please. Competitive Marvel Snap players, you know, the most hardcore 1% of players, the ones that are aiming for, you know, infinite level 300, whatever, things like that, have been asking for a more competitive mode for quite a while. The only issue being I don't think this quite hits that. I've seen people bring up the topics of, you know, this should have sideboards. I've seen, you know, it's just, when I look at this, it's one single deck. So you're essentially queuing up into ladder with closed deck lists, which I know a lot of competitive players already don't love the idea of closed deck lists on ladder. You do have the battle mode aspect where at least it's not a best of one, so you have a little bit more strategy in that scenario. However, you're still only bringing one deck, so if you get, you know, hard countered by your opponent's deck, it becomes really less of a competitive experience because you're not swapping out decks. It's not like you have 5 decks and you need to win best 3 out of 5. So honestly, I don't think Conquest is it's a more competitive experience than ladder, but I don't think it's really like a true competitive experience. And to be honest, it's just odd, especially with the way Snap works. You know, you're supposed to be retreating and all that. You're supposed to be getting onto better matchups. But if you lose a matchup, your entire run is over, and you have to go back to the Proving Grounds. Which means even if I bring like a top tier meta deck and I get all the way to infinity and I get to 4 wins, you still get some rewards along the way, but if I get to 4 wins and I match up against a complete counter deck, there's really not much to do besides just eat the L and go start back from scratch, which I don't think is a particularly competitive experience. And on top of that, the shop rewards, I think they're pretty cool rewards here. I like the variant. As you can see, I'll give my opinion personally on what I think of Conquest mode, but I am playing some because I want to get the variant. That's really all I really care about, is getting the variant, so I'm working towards that. But to get the variant, you have to play quite a bit, because you have to buy 9 unique rewards, and I think somebody did the math, and if you just grinded Proving Grounds, I think you needed 52 wins or something like that to get everything. So I guess if you have a couple, you know, higher win runs, it should work a bit better for you. But even the shop is, I mean, it's not too grindy. I don't think it's like an unfair shop. But it's not a lot of progression that you'll get from this shop. So, and you get the infinite avatar, which I guess is something to flex. But it's not like there's a Conquest leaderboard. I think that may come at some point, like the other leaderboards I think they've brought up as a goal for down the line. I just think in general, it's kind of a partially competitive mode while still like not competitive. And then you could say, all right, so if it's not really a competitive mode, is it aiming for, you know, the more casual audience? And I don't think it is even remotely targeting the casual audience. Besides the fact that there's a shop that you can get just by, you know, winning occasionally in Proving Grounds, I don't think that this mode is, you know, for a more casual audience at all. I don't think most casual players have played a single game of battle mode before Conquest mode, and then even after this, like, the experience of trying to win, what is it, 8, 10, 11 games in a row with a deck, isn't going to really be one that I think a lot of casual players are super into. I think a lot of casual players will probably play this mode the first week or two, and then a lot of them will probably drop off. If not, just grind Proving Grounds to get the variants. I don't think you'll see a lot of people really pushing for infinite avatars. And like, as much as the border is a little bit cool, as somebody who loves cosmetics, I don't care about infinite avatars at all. So I guess this is where my opinion is going to start coming in, is the overwhelming majority of Snap players are going to lean more towards the casual or average player base side of the bell curve versus the hyper-competitive players. Whereas I feel like Second Dinner and Snap put a ton of effort into this new mode that is specifically targeted on the smallest slice of the player base, and then we didn't even really deliver a mode for those players, if that makes sense. Because obviously there's not enough hyper-competitive players where you can just put out a hyper-competitive mode, so you need to try and get some casual players into this ladder so that you don't have 20-minute matchmaking. But I feel like at the end of the day, once people have time to really sit on this mode, those hyper-competitive players still are not going to be happy. They're still not going to be fulfilled. It'll probably be a little bit better than ladder, but I still don't think they're going to be super happy. And then it's going to get even worse if the casual players kind of just stop playing this mode because, you know, besides being slightly better way to get boosters or maybe finish your quests, I just don't think it's really resonating. Like, when I know I'm probably the most hardcore side of a casual player, but when I think about things that I would have added to the game first, like, I would have added a draft mode for, you know, newer players to get to play with cards that they don't own yet, or players with lower collection levels. You could be playing with some of these Season 5 cards if you get lucky and draft that card. Or, you know, limited time modes. Not so much like featured locations, but, you know, special rule sets, you know, double the energy, or, you know, whatever. Pick your rule sets. Kind of like Hearthstone's Tavern Brawls. Just ways of introducing new and varied gameplay on a week-to-week basis. I think those are the types of game modes that would be much more appealing to a more casual audience or a less hardcore audience, that also would have driven engagement in those modes, and you would have seen players respond to those much more positively, in my opinion. So I just feel like, and I don't want to sound like I'm trashing Conquest or trashing the effort that Second Dinner put in, because I think they did a good job of building the mode in general. I just feel like a mode was released targeting a segment of players that is overwhelmingly in the minority. So in order to build a mode for those players, we still have not pleased those players. And then the rest of the player base is obviously not going to be pleased because this mode was not for them necessarily. So I feel like Conquest is going to wind up in like an awkward in-between area where competitive players will probably play it because they don't have a better option. But all of this effort, not to say it's gone to waste, but it won't see the payoff, I don't think, that people are hoping for. I hope I'm wrong. I just, when I look at Conquest mode, and I played it a good amount yesterday, like, I was playing the mode as a, you know, quote-unquote hardcore casual player, and like, I was playing it and I could tell that this mode was not designed for me or players like me. And also, if I try to put myself in the competitive player's shoes, I can see where, at least initially, it's going to seem like a breath of fresh air because it's better than ladder for a competitive player. But a couple weeks down the line, I still feel like competitive players are going to want more. So I'm interested to see what modes or features get released down the line to Second Dinner, or from Second Dinner. I really hope some of the future features are targeting the rest of the player base. You know, we got battle mode, which was great for competitive players and for hosting tournaments and doing friendly matches and things like that. But that was targeted towards competitive players and not so much the casual player base. Then we got the follow-up, which is this Conquest mode, which is, again, targeting the more competitive player base and not necessarily the overwhelmingly, you know, majority casual player base. So, and then, like, if we move in towards, you know, either ladder or conquest leaderboards or tournament clients or a lot of the things I've seen suggested, that's just more and more features for the probably smallest segment of your player base. And when I look at this from like a third party observer perspective, we're still waiting on some updates to card acquisition and things like that. I feel like effort should be going into card acquisition and other game modes for a casual audience rather than pushing towards, a competitive mode that I don't think will necessarily even make competitive players happy. So yeah, that was quite a bit of rambling to really just say I feel kind of bad because I don't think that this mode is going to hit the mark. I could see this mode, besides, people grinding out whatever they have to grind out for the variant, I could see this being a thing where, like, beginning of the month there's a lot of players and then there's a sharp decline. And then if people stop caring about the variant, I think the decline could be even sharper over time, where this game mode could see some player-based problems, which would be unfortunate. And I think the other mistake that Second Dinner might make is if they see that there's too many people just doing Proving Grounds, getting their ticket, getting their medals, resigning, going back into Proving Grounds, just trying to grind out the variant as quickly as possible, I hope that they don't make any changes to, medal acquisition to make that grind harder or to try and force you to have to play through these levels. Because, like I said, I don't think most players are going to really care or be interested in playing through all these different tiers. But yeah, I'd be very curious to hear your all's opinion on Conquest mode and what you think, or what type of player you are, if you think this is kind of hitting that niche that you were looking for in a game mode. Let me know your opinions down below in the comment section, guys. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.